Okay, I'm going to be doing some inking here. So let's see. Got this character here I'm working on. Character's name is Anu. I'm just wrapping up a little bit of. So yeah, I'm just finishing up the penciling phase of this panel with this character. I'm going to go through and ink this character through. I'm just rendering, just kind of blocking in the hair here that we're seeing here. So those of you who are going to see this will see this preview artwork. And so what we have here is the, let's see if I can show this through here on the video. This panel here, this is kind of a throwback to the first issue, coming back to that monolithic structure, and then coming back here to reveal the character that was actually shown in one of my episodes on my Dream Awakens story arc for the Realm Ethereal comic book that I'm drawing and writing. You can see that if you're looking for that specific episode, or chapter on my comic book, The Realm Ethereal, The Dream Awakens, at my website, reneeariola.com. That's going to be episode or chapter 77. So we see his eyes there, and we're going to see me render a little bit more of the face here. So let's just go ahead and start out. I'm going to take my Kuretake brush pen here, and I'll be using several pens. I always like to make sure the brush is flowing, so I'll take a piece of scrap paper here that I have, keep it handy on the side. And the first thing I'm going to render is going to be kind of like these little energy trails here that kind of, maybe I'll get a little bit of a dry brush effect here as best as I can with this type of brush pen. A little bit here. Kind of like this energy wave kind of fantasy matter stuff. I should put on my glasses here. They're magnifiers, magnifying glasses. They help me to see a little bit sharper here. I should add that I wish I had better lighting in my studio here in my room. Maybe one day I'll get better lighting, but for right now the glasses really help. Not to mention with my age as well, I think my eyes, and being an artist, I guess eventually it does hit us at some point, I guess. The whole vision thing. I'm not blind, but definitely I have seen sharper in the past, or clearer. So, okay, so I got that in there. I think the next thing I want to do is going to go ahead and paint. Sorry, not paint, but render some of the, kind of like the neck area here. Let's get that neck area rendered in. Just like that. And this character, I revealed, well, if you've purchased some of my merch that I've created, that's related to the Realm Ethereal. If you ever bought my fantasy calendar based on the world, this Realm Ethereal world, then you'll know who this character is, or you will have seen the character Anu. This is primarily where this character comes from. He was one of the ethereals that I added to the calendar. It was my 2023 calendar, which was the last calendar I produced. I haven't produced one since. It's 2024 now as I record this video. It's about late May. And I don't really have any plans to do any more calendars at this stage. My calendars were full color paintings that I did digitally. And that's where this character first appeared, was in that calendar, technically. But, and of course, as I mentioned, we do see a little bit of this character in that chapter 77 of my online comic book. So if you go check that out, you'll see this character there, you'll see a bit of a kind of a preview. Okay, so I like this pen because it's this brush pen because it just has such a nice taper, but then it also handles nice broad strokes very nicely, and I don't have to use a is that an inkwell for this, or an ink? I don't have to dip the brush because it's got a cartridge inside of it, which is super handy. Okay, so we're going to have more of these like kind of lines out here, kind of denoting some kind of energy. But for now, we're going to render some hair, which, if you have my calendar, and maybe I'll flash the image here of the original painting of Anu, you don't really see that he has hair because the costume is kind of hiding the proportion of his head. So I'm going to take a piece of tape here and place it just above here, because this will allow me to kind of, as I'm inking the hair, would allow me to just really go off the panel without going outside of the lines. And all this is just simply some low. It's got it doesn't stick out very. It doesn't have a high adhesive on the back, a strong adhesive, but it's actually watercolor, meant for watercolor painting. So just going to go ahead and ink in some hair here. Can't see it here. Maybe I'll flash it in here, cut it into the video, but I'm looking to my iPad here, which is in the upper left corner of the screen, that has some photo reference that I'm using. So that's what I'm looking at here. Rendering good old hair here. Just kind of looking at the picture here, what I'm using as a reference. One of the things I learned much later on about hair is to kind of think of hair as, when you're drawing it and when you're inking it especially, is think of it as not so much strands of hair, but kind of like mass, groups, clumps almost. And learn that the less lines that you draw, the less you make it look like spaghetti, that the more volume it has. Okay, I think I've got enough there. If I need to, I can always go back in there and render some more hair if I need to. Actually, looking at my reference now, I'm going to want to put maybe a little bit more darks in here. I think that will work. That'll work for now. Let's see. Maybe just a little more dark right here. Kind of more of a fill in there, black solid, as opposed to something kind of stringy, right? There we go. Okay, time to step away from the hair. All right, I did something here. Let's just go ahead and ink this ear. This brush has a really good tip. It holds a point very well. It is synthetic. What I like about it is it works particularly well in these medium shots, because you can get a really good tip on there. You can pretty much maintain that tip because of the size of what I'm drawing. I will admit there are times when I'm inking something a lot smaller, like in a much smaller, maybe it's a figure that is, you know, off in the distance, that it's actually easier to use one of these, you know, one of these drawing pens here. Let me get that light. I should probably get some better lighting. There we go. Okay, it looks better. Sorry about that. But this brush pen, again, getting back into this here, this close-in shot is perfect for this brush. I feel like I have really good control given the size of the image within the panel. And in this case, it's a fairly close-in shot of the character, of the figure. So let's see, we'll draw the rest of the ear here. There's some shadow in there. I think drawing ears is actually kind of fun. You know, I've seen quite a few ears over the years based on the reference that I use to know that no two ears are alike. Although once you've studied the structure of an ear, you pretty much understand the basic anatomy of it. So it pays off to use reference, because after a time, you know, you may not need that reference so much, but it's always nice to have it, especially if you're drawing ear, or any body part for that matter that's tricky, which I consider an ear to be tricky to draw when you're drawing it from different angles. So definitely handy to have reference, especially in those different perspective shots of the head, where the ear is concerned when it's being shown. Okay, so now let's see, let's go ahead and go into rendering the eyes and the nose area. So one of the things I've also learned as I've continued to draw and make my own comics, and just studying art in general, especially when it comes to comic book art. And I remember as a kid looking at comics, thinking, "Wow, there's so much detail in this art." Whoever the artist might be, at least it took me a while to understand that there isn't really as much detail as I thought I saw at the time. At the time when I was much younger, all of it looked like it was just like magic. But then as you look at, you know, through the eyes of an adult now who understands and who has studied art in general, you realize that the storytelling is a key component, and that the art, when it's kept simple, I think it just is. It makes it easier to tell a story. So that's one of the things I am working on, trying to get my artwork, how I render, trying to take stuff out that possibly, you know, deters either from the clarity of the image, or the storytelling. So yeah, these are things that I think I'm constantly going to be working on as I continue on my journey here to creating my own comics and my own worlds. But it's a lot of fun. That's why I keep doing this stuff. I love coming up with stories, especially my own stories here that I'm illustrating. I wouldn't do this if I wasn't having fun and enjoying it. So now let's go ahead and pencil in the right eyebrow area. And let's see what's going on here. Again, I've got reference upper left corner here that you can't see in the video. But I just might phase that in here and do it. I might edit it, edit it to show in the video. The eyes are closed, of course. I'm getting pretty silent. I'm getting fairly silent here because I'm focusing a lot on what I'm doing here. Focusing quite a bit here. The eyebrow can be kind of tricky to render here, this angle, so I'm just making sure I'm paying attention to my reference and breathing. Gotta remember to breathe. Alright, so it looks good. And put a little bit more shadow on this, just a tiny bit more thickness. There we go, on that right nostril of his. Then let's get to the mouth area. In the mouth area, typically when drawing male or men, you don't usually render lips per se, but as you can see in this image I'm rendering here, this character, I am actually thinking of the mouth, thinking that, you know, yeah, the character definitely has got some lips, so we need to draw that. And again, it's helpful, I think, that it's in a close-up, so we actually will see that. If we were pulled out, I probably wouldn't be focusing so much, putting so much detail in the mouth area like we do have here. But it's definitely something that if you're close up in, you definitely want to consider that, yeah. Even though it's a guy, like, I am going to draw the lips in there. So, as part of the mouth, you know. Let's see, the upper lip here, kind of, you know, again, you can't see the reference, but just focusing here as much as I can to get this drawn in a way that looks, it looks like I can pull this off here. Okay. So the other thing now is to draw the eyelids, and of course eyelashes. Drawing eyelashes is always fun. Again, you usually don't see it so much on male characters, but again, consider the angle, or the perspective. I mean, this is a close-up shot, and so we definitely will see the eyelashes in here. Especially if the individual's got prominent eyelashes to begin with, right? So now I will say that I did not think or conceive of this character and thought, oh, he's got to have big eyelashes. But again, just something to consider when you're doing your characters. You know, what are their physical characteristics? It definitely does create a unique look. There we go. All right, so the eyes are closed, shut, or more. What's actually happening in the story is this character Anu is looking down. So let's see. Okay, so I'm going to switch from my Kuretake brush pen here to a regular pen. this marker here, or this drawing pen. The reason for that is because I want to get just some like really nice, I want to get somewhat slightly fainter lines, not fainter lines, but a little bit more, let's see, particular for the eyelashes. Admittedly, it's easier for me to do the eyelashes with a pen like this. I think it's because the tip is so, it's solid. It's not like a brush, right, where the hairs can move, and I have a little more control, I think. So there we go. We have this face. I'm going to put some lines here. Lines like that. Extend the mouth a little bit there, and now that I've got this pen, I might come in here and put a few more kind of strands of hair, just like that. And let's see, I think that's pretty good there. And now we're going to go back to the Kuretake brush pen, and then he has this. Overall, he's going to have kind of like a helmet that goes. You normally don't see his hair, this character's hair, like we are here, but because I guess I'll write it into the story what's actually happening as to why we do see the character, but we're seeing him materialize essentially here, and so we're seeing part of his exposed face. So, but essentially he's got like this golden helmet, and we're going to see a little bit of like this chin strap area of his, I guess, his costume design. And so that's what I'm going to go back to this brush for, because this brush is just really good for making these kind of like metallic, flowy, smooth lines. Kind of show reflective kind of a surface here, or at least kind of give that impression. Just like that. Okay, and then really the rest of his body is it's really just just muscle, or human anatomy, because a lot of these ethereal characters, they kind of are just basically just, it's like the classic, like the old time comic book characters, right? They were essentially nude figures that were wearing painted bodysuits almost. And so what we have here is just essentially just some shadows and denoting some kind of form. So, the neck muscle there. This piece of tape is kind of snagging a bit here, so I'm going to remove it from the edge and realign that so that I can, as I render here, I don't have to worry about my strokes, my brush strokes running off and falling outside of the panel. So that's pretty cool there. We'll just render some feathering here. Maybe show a little bit of some shoulder form there. And then let's get back into some shadow here. Do a little bit of cross hatching, just very lightly. Kind of like a kind of sparse cross hatching there. I really want to emphasize more just the shadow. We'll come back here, a little bit of the neck muscle. And we have the other side of the upper neck area here. And we'll kind of mirror what he's got on the left here, just by kind of creating these strokes here to denote the front there. And then maybe we've got some rim lighting here, because there is going to be this energy kind of emanating from his head. So we got a little bit of rim lighting there. RIM, R-I-M, rim lighting. So that pretty much does it for the face. I'm going to kind of extend a little bit of this eyebrow area here. Okay, that looks okay. Not bad. Oh, my reference died here. I gotta wake up my iPad. I've got an iPad up here, an iPad Pro, an old one apparently. Well, I know it's old, but someone reminded me of that on YouTube. Like, hey, that's an old iPad. I got one too. How's your iPad doing? My iPad is holding up quite well. I never really did much with the iPad other than use it to draw. So I don't put movies on it. I don't have music. That's what my iPhone's for, or my desktop, or my MacBook is for. When I got this iPad, I didn't know what to do with it. I thought it would become like my laptop, but I found out that it really wasn't anything suitable for a laptop, really. So I had it for about a year, a little more than a year, before I realized, hey, I can kind of get back into digital painting again, because I did do digital painting a long time ago, using Corel Painter ages ago. And I remember I had a certain amount of fun with that, exploring that. I bought my first Wacom tablet back then, which had to have been kind of like the early 2000s. And so I remembered what that was like, and then of course I discovered Procreate. And if you follow my channel, you know I do some work in Procreate as well. Actually, I color the comic book in Procreate. This comic book, it's become part of my workflow, is to color my comics in Procreate. Which is kind of funny because this original artwork is done on paper, as you can see here. But then I'll scan it into Photoshop and then do the tweaks there for what I need to prep the artwork for coloring, and then port it into to Procreate for coloring. And I think that's just because Procreate the interface is so simple, so clear, that it's actually a joy to color my comics in Procreate. And I've done it all types. I've done it all ways. I've done it in Photoshop. I've done coloring in there. I've done, like I said, years ago, I worked in, the name escapes me. I can't remember. It's hard to remember. Corel Paint. I worked in that program as well a while back. But anyway, after I get this inked, obviously I'll go down the next panel here, get that drawn right here. But the focus right now is just getting this panel inked up, and moving the story along, so that we can wrap up this storyline, get this off. Plan is to get this in print through one means or another, and move along into the next storyline, which is going to be the Sky Dreamers storyline, which is still in the Realm Ethereal universe. It just, the Dream Awakens storyline wraps up, so that I can take a little bit of a break, but then also get the next story arc underway and get that prepped and planned. So we've got Onu here. We're showing his face, a little bit of a reveal. Let's just go ahead and ink in some backgrounds, and this is going to be an easy background to do. This is going to be probably the quickest one background. Although I didn't say the quickest, I'm going to say probably the easiest, because it's just going to be a bunch of cross-hatching, kind of like, I wouldn't say nonsensical, because I still have to, vary up the light and dark pattern so that it just doesn't all come off as dark. But otherwise, it's pretty fun stuff to do. So let's just grab one of the pens here and go into some kind of like similar to what's happening here But, you know, kind of also to tie back to how I initially conceived of and drew this book, which is to go back to Procreate. I actually started this comic book in Procreate. Back in, it was before COVID, so I think it was late 2018, 2019. Late 2018, somewhere start of 2019. And I had a lot of this. I was just discovering the program, Procreate, and found that it had a really nice, what do you call it, a brush engine, or their brushes that allowed me to utilize different textures, which unfortunately I don't have that here. I suppose I would have to work really hard to do that, but essentially there was this kind of like this ragged tipped brush for inking that just had a really nice raw kind of visceral type feel to it, and that was a look that was something I did a lot in those early pages of developing this title, developing the artwork. And some of those earlier pages, I will say that I was really influenced or inspired by Sergi Topi. Yeah, the artist. I can't remember the first name. Is it Sergio Topi? But anyway, Topi. Yeah, where there was like these super thick, just kind of cross hatching, just creating a rough crisscross kind of cross-hatched background, I should say. And it was fun doing that in Procreate. It's still fun here, but it's different because I've got to really pay attention to the edges, because I don't want to have to go in here and start using too much the whiteout. Because if I just go crazy like that, which I could do in the iPad because of layering, that wouldn't be a problem. But we're not in a digital program. We're actually drawing this here on paper, and I got to be careful of the lines of the edges. So again, creating this kind of cross-hatched background, which was such something I did in those first couple of issues. Now I'll admit a lot of my style here has evolved over those first 3 issues. This is the 4th installment here that the artwork we're looking at here is a part of, and definitely my influences have changed, and my style has changed. And if you look at those past pages, again, it's free to look at these on my website if you want. Again, go to reneariola.com, look up comics, the comics tab on my website on the navigation, which is The Realm Ethereal, The Dream Awakens. That's what this whole storyline is, and it's, again, started sometime late 2018, or late 2019, late 2018 going into 2019. The style has evolved, and it's probably because it's taken me these last 4 years to get this out. But hey, I work a day job, and so this is like my passion project, and just my own universe of creating characters and continuing to just do what I enjoy doing, which is drawing comics, but then also working on my own drawing skills, just to make sure that I don't lose a step. You got to keep these drawing skills flexed here. And I made the switch back to, at least for this comic book series, back to traditional, because I've talked about this before, but one of the reasons, of course, to get away from the computer. But the other reason was that I'm supposed to start on a project for a known publisher, actually out there, company, on the licensed IP. That's a popular IP. It's one of the big 2. That's all I'll say. And it requires original artwork. So I got my butt back into gear by getting back into this traditional medium, because it was going to be something I needed to get my skills back up on and just become familiar with not becoming familiar, but just getting my drawing skills, I guess my familiarity and the feel of working with pens, ink, and brushes on paper. So let's see what happens with that project. Still kind of lying in wait here for that, but we'll see. If it happens, I will, I'll divulge as much as I can about that project. Okay, so these little cross hatchings here, fun to do. I developed this kind of background because it adds. So it's not really a background, I know that. I mean, but it's a good way to fill space. I mean, plus with the world here, which is kind of chaotic, at least from the perspective of the main character, Kasia Minor. This kind of these lines right here that I'm drawing, this cross hatching, just kind of adds a certain kind of like mystery, I think, to it all. So. Okay, so we got that, and the next thing I'm going to do is going to go back to, let's see, I'm going to actually take this brush pen, which is a different brand. Make sure to test it out, and I'm going to add kind of like these little splotches in here to give it further texture. And if I could do a dry brush, I would. I'm not set up. If I do a dry brush, I need to find like this beater brush that I can just use. But for now, we'll just have to go with these kind of splotchiness, because I just want to create some areas of dark. That will help some of these lighter areas. They'll help some of these lighter areas to play off of this dark here that we're showing here. Okay, so there's our black and white drawing, the inking. Now's when I'll take one of my, where'd that kneaded eraser go? Oh, I'm missing, here it is, off camera, underneath my drawing board. Just erase up some of these leftover pencil marks from the drawing underneath. Let's get rid of this masking tape here. Masking tape helps to preserve the white space on the paper that is outside the panel, otherwise known as gutters. Hopefully everything's pretty dry by now. They should be. Oh, I hit a little bit of a wet spot in the ink there. Hadn't quite dried. You got to keep your eye on some of these brushes. Not all the inks are the same, obviously, from the different brushes, and certainly not from the brush pens. I do see a little bit of smearing there, but just have to fix that in Photoshop for right now. So there we go. There is our panel fully inked. The character Anu. You get to see some of his face in there, and in the next panel underneath it, we'll get to see actually the full body reveal. Unless you have my calendar from 2023, the Real Material calendar, you will see the full body. Or you can kind of try to look for him on the website. He is an ethereal, I will say that. So I don't know, maybe if you go to the ethereals tab on my website, you'll get the full body shot here of Anu, the ethereal of Constant. So there we go. Inked in face was fun to draw. Thanks for watching.